Hi everyone, my name's Madhav. I'm a third year computer engineering student at the University of Waterloo. It seems you've just been accepted. I wanted to share some tips on what you can expect now. As you can see, it's a rather big list, so we'll take our time and step through things. After you've just been accepted, one of the first things you ought to do is figure out what the Discord is for your program, and yeah, that's going to be your cohort. Especially in engineering, these cohorts really stick together because you're going to see the same people again and again throughout university. When you go through the Discord, whenever you find your particular Discord, there's lots of useful info here. There might be wellness events, there might be people helping you keep track of exams or other deadlines. There might be certain links to certain textbooks that you should not click on. But in any case, you'll find tons of useful resources in that particular Discord, and yes, people are try hard. The Discords have already been started by the time you see this. Next up, you should figure out if your program involves a earlier or later co-op sequence. If you're in engineering, you will have the choice to start your co-op in your second term, or alternatively start it in your third term. I would recommend to you choose streammates. So you study for 8 months and then you go on your first co-op term. If you are in any of these programs, you do have a choice. You can fill out a request form. That would be my recommendation. The reason for that recommendation is I unfortunately chose Stream 4. As soon as I got to university, I already had to figure out university and living alone, but on top of that, I also had to figure out getting a job. Like 8 days to 14 days into the term, the co-op job search has started and you don't know what you're doing, so it really can be very stressful. The other thing is, not everyone has technical experience, 4 months in. So it can be tough to even know what you want to do, let alone what you're qualified to do, which is why I would recommend Stream8 if you have the choice available to you. Now, if you're in a non-engineering faculty, you're lucky you don't have to ever start a co-op term, 4 months after you join. For example, in the math faculties, whatever sequence you pick, it will end up with a co-op, at least 8 months after, but maybe, it could be a full 12 months after. So same thing in environment or health or arts, like as far as I know, it's only engineering where you do have the possibility to start 4 months after you join. I would not recommend that if you have the option, and if you don't, well, kind of sucks for you. Also, I'll leave this link probably below. Do check if your program gives you the choice anymore, because these programs sometimes they do change. First thing is choose on-campus housing for your first year. It is more expensive. I decided to try off-campus housing in my first year because I thought, oh, I'll just save some money. It's not a very good idea because you end up making a lot fewer friends that way, just because, in the evenings after everything's done, you're back at your apartment. You're not with everyone else, and that can be a challenge in terms of making friends, just, spontaneously running into people. That tends to happen less. And that's not just a social problem, these are the people that, you're doing labs with, that you're going to courses with and whatnot. So I'd highly recommend that you go look at the, on-campus housing options for your first year. It also saves you some of the headaches of finding housing, which I'll talk about at the end of the video. There's a lot of options available. If you're looking at the most popular, we have V1 and CMH, and no one uses full form anything at UWaterloo, so we're going to be calling it UW soon, and the buildings are all going to have their own letter acronyms. So those are the most common ones that people end up in. I will mention personally, I like a bit of peace and quiet, so the actual residences that I want to live in, I'm thinking about doing this in my fourth year, are one of these colleges. They are like across a bridge from the rest of the university, not like far, but they're a little bit, removed. There's more green space, there's more area. So for example, if I wanted to go to Conrad Grebel, they have a nice library, there's gardens, greenery everywhere. So it's just a nice environment, tight-knit community, and fewer people, if that's your thing. Just keep in mind some of these colleges, they are faith-based, so that might be a consideration for you. Now, the other thing that I'd recommend is when you get to university, get here a week early. Not so that you can try hard, but instead just go walk around, random labs and buildings. When I first got to university, I was just like walking around every building I could find. I highly recommend just wander the university. In that, first week before classes start, usually it's very quiet, people are more open to talking to you, you'll run into, professors, technicians, people in labs, and you just like find lots of random resources. For example, I can't disclose where, but there's a place in university where I just have a infinite supply of electronics. It's not available to any other computer engineering students, and it's not supposed to be available to me. I just know a guy pretty well because I was just randomly wandering in the first week, and I just walked in, asked them to tell me about their lab. So yeah, you can get some pretty good insider benefits, but also just learn a lot, meet people that might turn into mentors or just people for you to check in with, friendly faces. So highly would recommend that after you have just been accepted. Now let's talk about some organization, logistical things that you need to do in your first week of classes. Don't freak out if you don't have access earlier than that. You need to be logged in and enrolled to courses, and profs need to publish things. So first week of classes, it's fine. So first tool, all these websites will be linked below, but we have the course outline website. This is where you can find all the course outline or course syllabi. These are very useful because they will give you all of the deadlines you need to keep track of throughout the term. I can show you a few parts of a course outline, so it will tell you various things about what you'll be learning. Most of this, it won't make sense to you until you actually take the course, but ask ChatGPT about it if you want. The other thing that you should keep in mind is the class plan. So it will tell you which topics are being covered at which time. The big things that you need to pick out are deadlines, like let's say when quizzes, tests, midterms, and whatnot are happening. So you need to keep these things in mind so that you can put them in your calendar, whatever you want to use, pen or paper, Google Calendar, something on Mac OS. But you do need a calendar. Like it's really, really important. You cannot keep on top of everything. You're gonna have probably 6 courses in your first term in engineering and maybe fewer in other faculties, but still it's a lot. So what I like to do, two things. First thing is all of your courses, their lecture hours and whatnot, they end up in a website called Portal. So this is an app also. Portal has a bunch of useful things that you can take a look at. It tells you which classes you're in. It tells you, when your exams are. It tells you about when midterms and whatnot are happening. It will also tell you, this important thing, your calendar, which gives you, here are the times that your lectures are happening. Here are where they are. It gives you like all the deadlines you have. Of course, you probably don't want an app just for your UWaterloo calendar. Maybe you do. But in case you don't, you can export the calendar. It'll give you a link, which you can then import into Google Calendar. So you'll get all of these UWaterloo events, which is what I'd recommend. Next up, you can take the other deadlines, the important ones, like, some lab is due or whatnot, and program them into your calendar. And it's kind of important that you have two views. So one should be a weekly view of here's what I need to do day by day, and the other should be, your view of deadlines that are coming up so you can keep on top of things. Also, it might help you to have a daily checklist, things to do, so that you can keep organized day to day. It doesn't have to be on Notion, which is what I'm using. It could be, something else. It could be a, pen and paper type thing. It could be Trello or some other app. Just organize yourself in a day, keep track of what you need to do in a given week, and know which deadlines are coming up in a month. The other thing to keep in mind is Quest. So Quest is a place that you'll often be going in and out of for various things. It's kind of the center for all the things that you need, all the administrative things. You can come here to request transcripts or program applications. You can look at your grades, you can look at your class schedule, you can actually choose courses. In engineering, it'll be a long time till you get to choose an elective, but in other faculties, you'll be here often. To that end, the place that you actually go when you're choosing classes, so you need to go to the classes.uwaterloo.ca. This is a public website. You can come here, pick a term, and then let's say I'm taking a physics course. I can go pick out physics, and then I can enter a course number if I know it, or I can just see what's available in, which buildings. The one thing I'd recommend is when you are picking classes, so don't just pick classes based on, hey, I think this course would be great. Pick classes where you're like, okay, I think the course would be probably good, but I know the professor is amazing. So the website to check which profs are teaching courses and which profs are good is UWaterloo. So for example, the class that I picked, Phase 234, I saw that it was being taught by a prof that is a very excellent, guy. So you can see the particular course rating. You can also just, look at different profs. So let's say people really like this prof and she's teaching a particular course, then you might want to sign up for that particular course. This is very rare, by the way. Most people do not like most profs, so personally, that's my philosophy with picking courses. If you do get the chance, university is supposed to be a time where you try something out that you wouldn't have otherwise, and it's these S-tier profs that can really inspire you to go try out, an entirely new field. That happened in my case with electronics hardware. Next, I'm going to talk about what you actually do once classes start and you've done that first week type organization type thing. The big thing to keep in mind is this is what a light third year schedule looks like. I have Fridays off to do whatever I want. You don't have that in first year. You're like 8:30 to 5 p.m. Your schedule's just gonna look packed. And what I'm trying to say is simply there isn't enough time to do all the things you want to do. You can't do everything well. You're gonna have to sacrifice some things. The question is just what are you willing to sacrifice in your case? In my particular case, the choice that I make is I go to all of the lectures that I like, but I skip the tutorials, and that's not necessarily a good choice. That's just the choice I made. For example, with my probability course, I got a midterm of like 55%, and then I'm like, okay, let's not make that choice anymore. And then I was at all of the tutorials. So you just have to figure out for you what is the right choice. Keep in mind with labs, deadlines can be a little bit more finicky. Sometimes labs will have something you need to do before the lab, some pre-lab submission, some submission you need to do during the lab, then some, lab reports after the lab. So they can be rather time consuming. So you gotta account for all those deadlines. If grades are somewhat of a priority for you, well, there's one grade level that must be a priority to you. You can't have below 60% or you'll fail. If you want to consider maybe a grad school or undergrad research assistantships, URAs, or foreign exchange, you should probably aim for higher than an 80%, though the exact cutoff for foreign exchange, it does vary from faculty to faculty. So you can go to the foreign exchange website, you can search it up, and it will tell you the requirements for your particular faculty and also your particular program. So some programs have a higher minimum required grade than others, and you got to start thinking about this 1 year in advance. So Usually people can start going in their 2B term and above. So 2B, 3A, like different parts of your second, third year. You got to start planning a year ahead. So do that ahead of time. So try doing that in your 1B term, your second study term of your first year, if this is something you're interested in, because you got to submit applications 1 year ahead of time. For undergrad research assistantships, basically you find a prof that you like and you work at their lab. It's a pretty good thing if you might end up interested in doing grad school, so doing a master's or a PhD later on. I never thought I wanted to do one. And then you get into university and you're like, I didn't even know all the options there were for like, careers, and I don't know what I'm doing. And it starts to become a whole lot more enticing. So my general tip is, yeah, if you think it might be a possibility, then keep your grade above an 80. It just keeps the doors open for you. Um, of course, there's like trade-offs, you know. I have met people that you know, they have failed the term, they had to redo a term. There's no way that, they're doing these kinds of things, but they're enormously successful in co-op, They're working at IBM, Boston Dynamics, they're just working for all the big startups and, big companies. Like, you can be successful in different ways, but if this is the particular way you're aiming for, then 80%. The time to start applying for URAs is like 1 month before the next term begins. So let's say I am applying for a URA in the winter term that starts in January. I need to start talking to profs in December during the fall term. And to that end, if you're showing up in lectures, you're consistently asking questions, you're showing up in office hours, especially near the beginning of the term when most people aren't going, that will help you begin to have a connection with the prof, make you a lot better suited for working with them. Of course, you can also do cold outreach, just, email folks. You might have to do a mix of the two. Try and, dig around who's new in the department. The new profs, they're just starting up their labs, so they're actively looking for folks to bring on. The established profs, they're a little bit busier, so, just less time to mentor you and things like that. Next, let's talk about something that probably applies to everyone coming into UWaterloo, which is co-op. We're all looking for co-ops sometimes every 4 months. It can be rather exhausting. The first place that we do that is Waterloo Works, so that's an internal site where you can go and find different job boards. I'm not currently looking for a co-op, I'm on a study term, so for example, I can show you, it's like a typical job board, but, internal to University of Waterloo. There's a lot of filters and whatnot. You can, play around with them to figure out what you need. But the big thing is, don't rely on Waterloo Works alone. It might get you the first, few jobs, the entry-level jobs, but it's usually not a great idea for the better jobs as you progress further in your career. So I'd highly recommend, in addition to this, try LinkedIn, message small companies and startups, just go try premium. And it's, it can seem like it's sometimes a lot, but especially when you're on a co-op term, like, paying $60, $100, whatever, it's not much compared to what you'll be earning in the co-op, which is like, $10,000 plus. So it's definitely an investment that's worth it, and that's the way you need to think about your co-op search. Like when I first got to the university, I'm just like, okay, just go on the job board, apply to a few jobs, it'll work out. It's not like that. You have to put effort into it. Like you actually have to go through and contact people for yourself, go find cool companies. Usually you can do this by looking at startup accelerators. So for example, if I wanted to find jobs in Toronto, I might look at the DMZ Startup Accelerator, or I might look at Mars DD, or there's the Toronto Business Development Center, and so on and so on. So there's a lot. There's also Next 36, that's a good one. Anyways, there's a lot of places where you can look, but the big thing is you do need to put in effort and you do need to be consistent. It doesn't need to be like an intense, one day do everything. Like I'd recommend, especially if you're doing LinkedIn, one message a day. That's consistent. That's little enough that you can keep going with it, which is the key idea. It can be difficult if you get out of the habit and you do have to persist, you have to keep putting in effort. So that's the hard part about co-op. There's a bunch of anecdotes I can tell you outside of this. So your major, it doesn't really matter. Any branch of engineering, you can be working a software job. Anything related to the health or the sciences, you could be working in a lab. One thing to note, there is the zero experience program. So if you struggle to get a co-op in your first term, it's fine. You can apply to certain programs that will still give you co-op credits. You can also try to find jobs at student design teams if you're in engineering, but don't give up. In the first time it will be hard, and you're going to look at a lot of job descriptions and be like, I don't check that box or that box or that box or that box. That's all right. I have so many anecdotes, like stories of like times where I'm like, oh, this job would be great. I didn't apply to it. A friend did. They had no experience whatsoever. I had no experience whatsoever, but they applied and they got in. So that's what I'm kind of encouraging you to do is like just apply. The big thing that you have to show, there are two, but the first big thing you have to show is you just have to show that you're able to learn quickly. It doesn't matter if it's like with different skills that are not the ones listed on the job. You just have to show that you're able to learn quickly. The other thing is when you actually get an interview, so your job isn't to talk about technical experience. They're there for a reason. They know that they have to ask you about technical experience. Don't worry about it. They can cover that. They will ask you questions about your technical experience. Your job is to talk about you personally. It's about, showing that you have a good personality, that you're someone that they would want on their team. Because if you think about it, these people are sitting through interviews, like all throughout a day sometimes. Their entire day is like back to back to back interviews. So a few things you can do to stand out is one, be the first or last interview. I'd recommend the first. Two, actually be personable. Make a joke, talk about your personal interests. Maybe you like nature or, traveling or something, and they also like that. You can research your interviewer ahead of time. Often you'll have more than one for, especially like a mid to large company, you'll usually have one, more than one, but only one will be listed in Waterloo Works. And that's all right. Just research what you can and see if you have any connections with the person. It doesn't have to be contrived or forced. Don't do that. Like people can easily pick up on you're just, spinning your wheels. But if you can genuinely, find something interesting to connect you to a company, it's more interesting for you and them to sit through that interview, and you're gonna have a lot of interviews, so you might as well. The other thing that I ought to mention is for the first three co-ops, don't worry about anything. Just like go get different jobs. Don't repeat the same job twice. Just do different things in different industries. Doesn't matter if it's exactly where you want to be in, so and so years. It doesn't matter if you don't know if you'll use these particular skills. Just try different things because the amount of value you get out of working in different industries like finance, legal, healthcare, whatever, it is so so broad because it helps you figure out what do you want to be doing for the rest of your life. And the worst case scenario is if you get demotivated, which I personally had happen one term. I was just like getting to the end of the term, had found no job, so I just like stopped looking. Don't ever do that. That's like the worst thing you can do because it really limits your flexibility of like when you can graduate and other experiences you can try out, like if you can go on exchange or not, because there is a certain minimum number of co-op terms that you need to do to graduate. So never give up. And the thing that makes that easier, which I only later realized, is that in fact, if you're looking in the last month, let's say, you're just coming in the fall and it gets to December and you still haven't found a co-op, that's actually a good time to be searching for certain companies, namely startups, because I've talked to startups, that I've liked, and I've been like, oh, I'll be available in 3 months. And they're just like, I don't know what to do with you because I need to get going, right? Like startups, they're always working, they're always running, things are always changing. They don't have time to wait around for 3 months for you to be available to work for them. So they'd much rather, interview you in December and get you started in January. So don't give up. It's actually fine if you're, searching late and sometimes even into the next term because those times they actually make you a more viable candidate for certain companies that want to hire quickly. Okay, so this is the part where I speed run through a bunch of different links to a bunch of different resources that you will end up using at some point, starting with the UWaterloo Reddit. If you have a question, someone's had the question, search it here and you'll find the answer. There are a bunch of different workshops, especially in engineering, but also for some other faculties. They lend out in engineering, access to different machines. You can get trained on them. It's pretty cool. You can buy materials for different projects. Arts has a bunch of workshops and equivalent things like this too. There are 3D printing centers, laser cutting centers in the rapid prototyping center. In the arts, you can have a bunch of studios, you can buy paints, whatnot. There's also a lot of different clubs that you can join, and I highly, highly recommend, especially if you don't have co-op, right in your first time, i.e. anyone except for stream engineering students, join a club. Um, Lots of different clubs for different reasons. One interesting game is go find a club that you think you'd never like. For example, Cheese Club, and just show up and see what happens. It's a good way to make friends and put yourself out there. To that end, a big goal in your first year is just to maximize newness, not like goodness, just newness. Try out a bunch of different new things, even if they might not be ideal. There's also engineering specific. There's the Student Design Center with student design teams. They're a great way to learn, especially in your first and second years. I would highly, highly recommend you join a design team. You'd learn so, so much more. There's also a bunch of free software you can download. Search around on Reddit if you're looking for something in particular. I've personally used, all of the free Autodesk softwares a lot to learn. There's also free Microsoft everything, and MATLAB is free for you. So there's a bunch of stuff that you can find at free or discounted rates because you are currently a student. The big one is GitHub Copilot. So you should sign up for the GitHub education pack if you're in anything, software related. So you can get AI to autocomplete things for you. It will make you much, much more productive. So join that. Um, there are a bunch of different, faculty-specific associations. For example, there's the Engineering Society, there's the Math Society, there's the Art Student Union, Health something or the other. So you can find Instagram accounts for them, you can find websites for them. They often have resources that are available to you. For example, the Engineering Exam Bank. You can search up some course to find past exams to study with. There's different navigation apps. For example, What is Grass is like a web app. There's What is Rain for Android, but it'll help you especially in the winter times where you are just freezing and in snow and don't want to step outside. It'll teach you how to get between all the different buildings, preferably uh, tunneling at all costs. But yeah, it'll just help you get around and just be familiar with the campus. Um, there is the first year or undergraduate office in every faculty. In engineering, it's called the first year office. In most other faculties, it's just the undergrad office. You can go there for a bunch of issues. Just like go ask for general tips. If you're thinking about switching programs, it's easiest before your second year starts. So go have a talk with them if you need anything. They'll help you find it if it's available on campus. There's the physical activities complex. So you can in first year, people think like they don't have time, but then you keep going throughout your degree and you get so tired that you're just like, okay, I need some kind of outlet. You can find a bunch of things at the pack. You might as well. You're paying for it anyways, like you can't opt out of it, so might as well check it out. Finally, let's wrap up by talking about off-campus housing. So you will have to find an off-campus house eventually. If you're looking for off-campus housing, the main place to go is this Facebook group. So people will post things on here so that you can find sublets. That means you are not the person signing the lease. Someone else has signed the lease. You're just renting their room from them, and you're directly paying them for a short period, like 4 months. And you can also find full leases. So you have to sign like I will rent this for 3 years at this price. When I first was thinking about this, I was like, oh, you can get no responsibility when you're subletting, no contract, you're not fixed in place, so why don't I just do that every 4 months? It's because it's exhausting. That's why. It's exhausting to go through this and like, send messages to folks and be like, can I set up a virtual tour or an in-person tour to view the house? You should always do that beforehand. It takes a lot of time. You have to, keep monitoring this because it is very competitive to find a place, especially during the peak season when someone is looking, everyone is looking at the same time for the upcoming term. So you really do have to check this like every couple of hours, see what's been posted in the last hour, and just like immediately message as soon as you can. Most companies are not very good. That's just kind of the reality of Waterloo. You'll run into, you know, people being slow with repairs or whatever, or they're very expensive. So they're, yeah, there are trade-offs everywhere. One of the benefits of that is personally, I did a lease takeover, and I got a very good rental price, like hundreds of dollars below the current market price, because that lease was started, 2 years before 2021. So it was started in like 2019. So I still have 2019 prices on my lease. Now, when I did the lease takeover, I only had a 1 year contract left on the 3 year lease. Once I did that, in Ontario, by law, it just goes to month renting. So you can leave at any month you want. You have no contract anymore after that lease period expires. Um, if you're concerned about something, there is legal support available. So you can go to Needles Hall. Just search up, legal services UWaterloo, and you'll find, answers to what you're looking for. Also consult Reddit, but obviously less official. I would highly recommend on-campus housing in the first year. Make good friends, and then sign a lease with them once you end up moving into off-campus housing so that you know what you're getting into. Hi. So it was only when I was editing the video that I realized that I said a few vague things that I need to clarify. One thing I just threw out, go get an 80, and didn't really give any context as to how you do that. There are two parts. One is a lot of hard work. If you leave it all to the end, it's not going to work out. And even if, you get some number on your transcript at the end of the day, you're not going to feel like you learned, and you're not going to feel like you deserve it. So what it takes is a lot of spaced out work throughout the term. Unfortunately, there is a lot of weightage on just, pure exams, and there are only certain types of questions that show up on exams. So I've seen people that get very stressed out about, oh, you can never practice enough, there's always something else you have to be doing, but it's pointless, and it's a weight on you that isn't sustainable. You have to recognize the kinds of things that will show up in exams from looking at past exams, the exam bank, and that's where you ought to prioritize your focus. In terms of interviews, I mentioned, you have to show that you're able to learn quickly. Again, it's not some day of the interview hack that you can do here. It takes a lot of effort leading up to taking part in the job search process. Effort like joining different design teams, effort like trying different projects on your spare time, learning a new library, software, language, whatever it may be, and not just doing that effort in some isolated bubble, not just information going into your head, but putting something back out into the universe. Whether you're re-explaining what you learned to help someone else learn it, whether you're recording a video, putting out a blog post, taking a photo gallery, making a demo, whatever it may be for you that gets you excited, finding some way to showcase that learning over time. And to that end, it's not even just about the interview, it's about what you do once you get in as well. Lots of people might take it easy or, just do the bare minimum, and that's a choice you can make, but I don't think you will remember or appreciate the job that you had if you make that choice. If you instead put yourself out there, tell your boss, here are some of the things that I'm excited to learn about. Is there an opportunity to do something about this? Or ask, why certain things are being done in a certain way, so that you have an opportunity to learn how to make these important decisions and prioritize things. That might happen, for example, like me in my second year at the end. So many labs, exams, everything, design teams, everything just piling on at the end of the term in just in a few weeks. And it was like everyone was behind on something, everyone was behind on something, but everyone was also the first one to do something. And that's when, you look at the community, you take care of each other, you help the person next to you. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter the jobs that you got or, the exams that you did well in, you'll forget in a couple of months. But the people that you meet along the way, the people that you lend a hand to, the people that you connect with, the late nights spent in labs or, design team adventures, just laughter. I have a little box of memories with, birthday notes or just cards, photos, whatever, of friends that I made along the way. And it's just like, you'll be in this transition phase into adult life. You'll be owning new things, you'll be on to bigger and better jobs, you'll be making more money. And at the end of the day, that's what matters. That's the most prized possession. It's just all of those memories that you made, the connections that you made. Those are the things that you really will learn to treasure. So it's a big adventure ahead, and I wish you well. I hope you create a positive influence for the people around you.